In a world of challenges and uncertainties, hope shines as a beacon, guiding us through the dark times and showing us the way to brighter days ahead. But what exactly is hope? Where does it come from? And how does it shape our lives? I'm Annie Bennett, and I'd love you to join me on this journey as I explore the meaning of hope. I'll delve into philosophical perspectives, personal stories, and scientific insights to understand the power of this elusive emotion. So whether you're seeking inspiration, comfort, or simply a deeper understanding of the human spirit, let's embark on this exploration together and discover the extraordinary power of hope. Hello and welcome to this episode of the Chronicles of Hope with me, Annie Bennett. Now, I have today the most fabulous guest. Well, all my guests are fabulous, but this one's particularly fabulous. She describes herself as a global transformation coach. Don't worry, we will ask her exactly what that means. But she's also an all-round fabulous person. Let me introduce you to the fabulous Charlotte Carter. Hello, Charlotte.
Hi, Annie. I am so excited to see where this conversation goes because each time we meet, we have so much fun, likeness, we go deep, but we also, talk about many things.
We do, yes. We've known each other for a few years now, haven't we? You know, in one way or another. But yeah, tell my listeners who you are and what you do and a little bit about you.
So Annie and I were just laughing when she said, what are you calling yourself these days? I'm like, well, these days I'm calling myself a transformation coach because I have worked in various fields, in the mindset field, in the energy field, in the high performance space. And really, my work is all around holistic transformation. So it's about bringing people to a place where they feel so secure and safe and trust themselves in their own body to make whatever decisions they want in their life and live a life that really feeds their soul, gives them fulfillment, gives them joy, happiness, and all of the good things in life.
Fabulous, just fabulous. And I think there is absolutely a link with hope with all that, isn't there? Absolutely. I mean, if you can, establish yourself or be at one with yourself, then there is hope there. They're sort of joined together, really, aren't they?
Well, it's always the first piece that I work with people on because some people can't come to me and they might be feeling hopeless with their situation, with their life, with their health, their relationships, money, whatever it is that's coming up for them. And the first piece is that you've got to get your mindset into believing that hope's there for everyone. It's not limited. And it's the more abundance you can have in terms of focusing on hope, in terms of the structure. If you want to do hope mapping, which is a positive psychology tool, map out how you can actually move yourself from where you are to where you want to go. But also just as a feeling in terms of if you're going to look at things in life that are deep and things that you want to move through, you've got to look through the lens of hope.
Yeah. I mean, it was interesting you talk about hope plan. It where does sort of optimism and hope, how are they similar? Are they the same? Is there a difference? What would you say about that?
Oh, that's a juicy
I
question.
know. Gotta start with the good ones, eh?
We're just about sitting down with that question. Um, Hope is an ingrained certainty in yourself.
Yeah.
Optimism is like a fleeting thought that people might dip in and out of. I'm fairly optimistic, and they might not necessarily hang on to it. Whereas hope is very closely linked with inner grit, inner space, inner state, and hope mapping is where you map out your desires, basically map out your support that's going to help you achieve those desires, map out your obstacles and your struggles that you know you're going to come up against, like that's probably your own head, and maybe the people that are going to pull you back, and then how you're going to navigate them. And that's what hope mapping is. And people use it in many different ways on an intellectual level, which is what I use it with, but also the other layer is purely intuition. And I think your hope is much more locked into your intuitive self. You just feel it. You just feel it, and you can train yourself to feel it more.
Yeah. Oh, you absolutely can. I mean, I'm a very different person to the person that I was sort of 10 or so years ago.
I mean now, I mean you know me quite well now, you know, and I've got resilience coming at me. Yes.
Yeah,
But it's something that I've learnt.
yeah,
It's a skill, isn't it? I mean, people sort of say, "Oh, I can't do that. I'm no good at that." But you know, everything can be learnt, and these skills, having hope, is almost a skill that can be learnt, don't you think?
yeah, for
Mm.
certain. And I think everything's transformative and everything's transferable. So I always say to people like, where in your life do you feel hopeful, or where do you feel like you've got pockets of hope? And
Mm.
let's just maximize them. Before you know it, with the habits that I teach, you'll have it in all areas of your life because you're already doing it in one. You're just denying yourself it in the others.
Yeah. Yeah, and that denial and that finding you, it's almost using the obstacles as an excuse not to progress, isn't it? I see that a lot with people that I work with. They say, "Oh, well, I can't do that because I've got children, or because I've got this, or because I've got that." And it's part of the whole mindset thing is to say, well, it doesn't matter what the barriers are. You know, I used to do this as a teacher. You know, it was ingrained in us teachers that we don't look at the barriers, we look at how to overcome them. And obviously your mindset work does that too. Find out what that barrier is and say, well, all right, how can I get around it then?
Well, it's I always talk to people about what are the true desires, which I think is where they get their hope from. What are the true desires? What would you really love out of this lifetime? And then let's just make the plan of how to get there rather than what's holding you back from where you want to go. Once you talk about being futuristic and desire led, then people are much more energized and they're much more focused to go, well, actually, that is where I'm going. And so I'm going to navigate it in whatever way, shape, or form. But your stories that you tell yourself will keep you in the reality that you're in.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so true, isn't it? You know, if you think, right, well, in 10 years' time, I'd love to be, I don't know, in a villa in Italy or whatever it is. And it could be a pipe dream. But actually, if you sit and think, actually, I could do that if I really, you know, put my mind to it. What have I got to, you know, what's holding me back from doing that? And that's a real mindset thing, isn't it? Not having the, oh, well, that's not possible, I'll forget it thing, but having a, hang on a minute, I can do this.
And there's so many people, it's very, very easy for people to not claim their desires
Yeah,
because they feel too big or people won't get them or they feel out of reach. And actually, that's part of their journey. That is their desire. That is what they want to do.
yeah,
And the sense of accomplishment when you do something that's purely your journey
yeah.
is like, nothing beats it.
Yeah, it must be so rewarding for you to see people that you work with realizing that. It must be fabulous.
Yeah, it, it's really, really. I mean, I'm driven like a lot of people are, and I totally hold my hat up. I'm driven by the ripple effect.
Mm,
So the work that I do with people then impacts their family, then impacts their
mm,
friendships, then impacts how they shop in work. It's not never just for the one person.
mm.
And that really, really drives me. So when you see change in people when they haven't seen it themselves, and they're like, oh yeah, okay, now I can run with this piece. Like, yeah, you so can. What do you need in terms of your support system to be able to run with that? And
Yeah,
then it's like watching people fly. I love it. I love watching
yeah,
people.
it's fabulous. Is it just businesses you work with, or is it a whole range of
All sorts.
yeah.
So part of my journey is that I worked for 20 years in mental health. I then started working with lots of people who came to me where they weren't feeling so mentally well, should we say.
Mm,
And then I moved into the high performance, which was purely for entrepreneurs, high
mm,
performance for entrepreneurs in the mindset space, really. And now it's more transformation for it is entrepreneurs as one thread, but also it's for anybody that wants to change their life and anybody that wants to explore their energy or their spiritual side. So there's multiple
mm.
multiple
Yeah.
parts of how I serve people, but ultimately it's about claiming what you want to do with this life,
Mm.
deciding and owning that that is what you want to do, and then let's make the plan of how you do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, and someone in my position who's been, you know, been told that actually your life's going to be limited. And when I say all the time, I was told my life is limited, but I'm not limiting my life. You
Yeah.
know, that it's a real, well, I can, there's still things I can still achieve. Um, and just because I've got that diagnosis, that's just another barrier I've just got to get round as and when, you know.
I think it for you and people that I work with, I do work with people in the situation that you're in. It's about how do you live in the moment whilst leaving your legacy.
Yeah.
So how can you find that balance of actually, you know, this is what I want to do. I want to do this with the family. I want to do this. These are the experiences I know I want to have while I'm feeling as well as I can be. And this is what I want to be leaving behind. This is the part of me that actually has my achiever thread, my accomplishment thread. I'm not going to, you know, I've got to keep this bit going because this is part of what's going to keep me well for longer. And all of those parts of the puzzle, it's making sure that you fill both those cups.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I was given my first diagnosis, when I was told I had cancer, that both the Macmillan nurse and the doctor said, your attitude's going to take you far, or words to that effect. You know, having that positive. I mean, I sort of laughed, and I had a friend with me who came with me, and they were talking about surgery and, you know, chemo and surgery and things. And I made a joke about, oh, can you make my boobs bigger with this, or something like that? And we were sort of laughing about it, and they were saying, you know, that kind of positive, optimistic outlook is what's going to, you know, take you far. And I really believe it. I want to actually talk to more, you know, doctors as well about what they think about it. But it's true, isn't it? You have that yes, you know, I can do this, and things aren't going to stop me. Then it helps. It really, and it's comforting to know, you know, to know that.
I think it's really empowering because we have the capacity and capability to change our mind and rewire our mind and, you know, recircuit it. So when we actually decide, so much of it is about decision. When we decide and choose, which is what you're absolutely fabulous at, you know, I'm choosing to live my life this way. When you actually decide that, there's so many people on the edge, why the business is called I Dare to Leap, so many people on the edge, and they'll just stay on the edge. They won't decide, actually, I'm available for more, or I'm ready to do whatever it is that they want to do with their life. And your mind is the biggest part of the journey, and then it's your body, and then it's your energy.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I Dare to Leap. Tell us why that, and tell us about that.
So, bit like if we go back to the beginning where I've changed my job title many times. My company has had 4 different names, all different iterations of myself, because that is what I teach. We're always going to change and evolve, and you have to know that. But this one is here to stay. So if you look at the website, it is here to stay. It's not changing. I've committed to it. Because it says everything that I'm here for, in that so many people are let fear hold them back, let fear be the driver in their life, let other people's ways of seeing the world hold them back, and all of those things. And when you actually decide that you're going to leap into the unknown, because so many people are scared of the unknown or change or anything like that, then you do need your hope for certain, but you also just need to anchor in your belief in yourself, anchoring that anything's possible. Everything is going to be the other side of the leap, but only you alone can actually do that leap.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, and I think anyone that's, you know, had a diagnosis, this, you know, as I have, it is a leap, and it's one that you almost don't have a choice. You've got to take that leap. You've got to do that because that's where you are. But you have the choice of how you do it and how positively you do it. And I think perhaps people as well, like my daughters, who are in the position where they're, you know, with or caring for someone, that can still apply too, do you think?
For certain, yeah. I think there's people that, you know, can massively be inspired by yourself and your journey and your resilience. We've talked about this many times, and I adore that in you. Especially now, it's like you're one of your biggest assets. But the people that are supporting, there's like 2 paths going on. There's like being the supporter in the situation for ever long that situation is, you know, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, whatever that particular diagnosis is of the person they're supporting. And then also they're trying to guard themselves of what life's going to be like when that person isn't there. So there's like two lives that go in parallel. And my advice is always about, which is what I was saying with you earlier, it's about, you've got to be able to live in the present as much as you can, because nothing beats the present. But you've got to be able to anchor in what you need to secure for yourself about this other path that you know is inevitable, and that is on the journey, but it's not here, it's not in the present. That's much further on. So it's anchoring in your belief in the present, that you're supporting in the best way you can, and the best way to do that is always looking after yourself first.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I'm such an advocate. I'm always talking about the airplane safety talk analogy, where they say when the oxygen mask comes down, you put yours on first. And I'm such an advocate for that. It works for absolutely everything. When I was a teacher, I used to say to teachers, look after yourself first. Because if you don't look after yourself, this class of 30 children are not going to be looked after. So it's really true, isn't it? Self-care is it's almost a duty, isn't it? Would you say?
Yeah, I think it's like your health, in terms of what your needs are, no matter where you are in life. It's what your needs are. So if you know you need to be around people because they light you up, make sure that you are around people. If you know you need to have space on your own, make sure you do that. If you know that you need to binge on telly and actually it helps you and it moves you through stuff when you're feeling emotional, then do that. It's like an allowing piece for me. And
Yeah.
everybody's got this unique blueprint about this that I'm really passionate about. I can't sit and watch hardly any telly because I can't really sit still. That's not my bag. It's
Yeah.
not who I am. But for me, put me out on an obstacle course, I absolutely love it. That's me in my element. And it's knowing what your element is and
Yeah.
then what are the steps that you need to be able to live in that element as much as you can.
Absolutely. I mean, there's the whole thing about, you mentioned the word self-care, and people almost automatically think of spa days and having your nails done and things, but there's so much more to self-care than that, isn't there?
Yeah, I really sort of don't use that word because for me it's about holistic living.
Yeah.
So it's like, what are the things that give you fulfillment? Do you love reading a good book? Do you like, you can't wait and you can't wait do you love doing that? Well, do more of it.
Yeah.
Do you love wearing clothes that make you feel great? Well, do more of it. It's
Yeah.
all about that. What actually, on a sensory level, as well as like what you put in your body and what you're drinking and how you move in your body, there's also this huge piece around outside inner sensory stuff. So if it's stuff, like you were saying about this whole makeover, there's definitely a piece that's part of that holistic health and well-being around that actually makes you feel really great, gives you more confidence, it allows you to be really in the moment and present. Somebody's like loving on you, that kind of thing. And
Yeah.
it's knowing what they are for you. So many people that I work with span so many different guises. This shows up for people. So some women I've worked with, they've put a massive face of makeup on because that's what they thought actually gave them this piece that we're talking about. It never did. It was just a show. And once you move past the layers, they're like, do you know what? I showed up in my hoodie, I felt my true self, and I was magnetic. I'm like, that's the piece. Whatever that is, if it is makeup that allows you to be that, then accept it and
Yeah.
run with it. If it's wearing whatever, the clothes are really important, but also it's about who you surround yourself with
Yeah.
and what energy you surround yourself and what you're available for.
That's so true, isn't it? And that there's something to be said about um, the friends that you have, particularly from perhaps primary school or when you were young. You might grow out of them. There's nothing to say just because they're old friends, they have to stay friends. And people come in and out of your life, don't they? And some people just aren't making you the person that you want to be. So it's absolutely fine to say, okay, I'm going to, cut those ties, if you like. And
Yeah, this is a real big piece when I work with people on relationships. And I think it's something why you and I have so much fun together because we have this like mutual love and respect for each other. We're not trying to, there's no dynamic other than pure love and respect, really. And
absolutely.
I think with some relationships and with some friendships, it's like you've grown and they don't, your dynamic isn't equal as such. So
Mm.
that you're not necessarily on the same wavelength as them. And so many people stay in friendships or relationships or in jobs where just because they think they can, or there's this obligation energy of like, well, I'm
Yeah.
just going to keep that because it's what, it's what I know, and all these stories. It's like, but is it actually joyful on bringing you happiness? And do you actually want to do all the things that you're doing? And
Yeah.
more often than not, there's a fear of letting go.
Yeah, absolutely. That word obligation is quite a powerful one, isn't it? Because if
Yeah.
you live your life because you're obligated to do things, you're really doing yourself a disservice, aren't you?
And ultimately, when people are in that obligation energy, they're not prioritizing themselves.
Hmm.
because they're just living off everybody else's dreams.
Mm.
Oh, that was a big sentence, wasn't it?
Oh.
Let's let that land with people. Are you living off anybody else's dreams at the moment? Ask yourself, tune into yourself and see whether it is actually a part of, are you at the I Dare to Leap bit? Are you at the thing going, actually, do you know what? These people over here are who I really want to hang out with, but these people over here are holding me back. And actually, it's always my choice. I can't just hide behind the people that are holding me back. I'm, born alone, I'll die alone. It's like, what's for me on my own that I'm going to sort of jump into? So, yeah, that's sort of just throw a deep question in there.
Well, it's interesting because, I've chatted to a few people who've said that the reason they do whatever it is they're doing, and most because I know a lot of business people, and most of them are saying, I started the business to prove my teachers wrong or to prove my classmates wrong. But they generally all come to the same conclusion in that once they've achieved that and they've proved that person wrong, where now? What now? What am I doing it for now? So that there's a sort of an obligation to prove yourself to those, those historic figures, if you like, in your life, but you're not doing it for yourself, are you?
It's a typical thread of this external validation piece. It's a typical thread that so many people have. And they get it mixed up, I think, sometimes when people start a business, that's what they believe is the drive. And actually the drive is inside of them, but they haven't necessarily opened that bit up. It's easy to go, I'm driven because I'm going to prove, like for me, one of my head teachers said, you're going to come to nothing. So like, right, I'm going to prove them. And it was all that, I'm going to prove it, watch me type of energy. Yeah. And then when you come through that and realize, actually, no, I was people pleasing, I was this, that, and the other, and all these, I still had some healing to do in terms of the external validation. You come to the pure essence of who you are and what you're here to do. And so my idea to leap is to help people get ready and brave enough to leap into a life of the absolute pure enjoyment that they're going to like. It's going to be so good that they don't even know yet, but they're only going to get there once they've released some of the stuff that's holding them back.
Yeah. And I think the trouble is, and I don't know if this is a cultural thing or a human nature thing, probably a bit of both, is that we're almost brought up to believe that unless you're suffering a little bit, or unless you're, you don't, you're don't like your job and you're suffering, and that means you're not working hard. If you have a job you love and it doesn't feel like you're working hard, are you actually, or are you, are you can't think of the word, are you fulfilling yourself as a human being, if you like, because you've got to suffer to achieve, haven't you? That whole
there's so much on this, Annie, that I could talk about. This whole it's got to be hard thread.
Yeah.
And actually, energetically, what happens energetically if people are listening and they're like, "Oh my goodness, that is me," I've got to push through. I've got to really graft there. I've got, I'm starting out, so I've got to do all the hours. Whatever story you're telling yourself, it's really it's got to be hard thread that's going on. And what happens when you work like that, you just generate this whole energetic area around you that it is going to stay being hard, because that's what you believe, and that's what your thoughts are saying, that's what your mindset's doing, that's what your action is, and you're proving it, because you're then going to burn yourself out, or you're going to work too much, and you're going to go, yeah, it was hard, and you're going to get to this bit where it's like, yeah, I've done it, but it's really hard, and you can really like this victim mode. Where when you can work on your mindset and your energy and go, do you know what, this actually is like one of my gifts, like one of your gifts. For example, one of your superpowers is to be able to empower others, to be able to reframe their mindset, to be able to go after what it is that they're capable of doing in a way that feels good for them. And when you can do that for yourself, which is the hardest journey, it's easy to give it to everybody else. The hardest journey is doing it yourself. When you can do that and change your energy, and do you know what? This feels so easy to me. Like, for example, there's things that I do with people, and it's so easy, like unbelievably easy. And they're like, what have you done? I'm like, this is just so easy. And it's those nuggets that people dismiss. But when you start learning and leaning into your intuition, you pick up on those nuggets. You're like, oh, that was really easy. And that was really easy. And that was really easy. Like you and I talking, this is easy to us, isn't it? One of the easiest things. But some people, it's very difficult, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so it's knowing what's easy to you and actually asking yourself, why aren't you going for the easiest path?
Yeah.
who
Yeah.
you're trying to prove and what your obstacles that you're putting in. More often than not is people putting in themselves.
Yeah.
You know, or my mum will say, what, you know, are you putting these hours in, or whatever the dynamic is, whatever stories you've got from your past of who's saying what to you.
Yeah. Yeah. Because our pasts have a lot to answer for a lot of the time, don't they?
They do, and so many people, you know, this is another thing for your listeners to think about. Ultimately, we only ever want to live in the present,
Hmm.
which is really hard for people to get their head around because they're like, well, that moment's gone, and then that moment, what you mean right now? And I'm like, yeah, right now. And you want to get to a place in terms of positive psychology of having this like forgiveness for your past. So whatever stories, whatever journey you've been on for the past, give forgiveness rather than keep activating any of the old stories. You just want to forgive yourself so that right here, right now, in this moment, you know you can change your mind, you know you can rewire your beliefs, you know you can change your relationship with money, with love, with old friends, whatever it is that you want to do. You can do that because everybody has the power to change. And then the future, you want to get really desirable about the future of like what, you know, like where you're going in a few weeks, you know, that's so exciting, and get this excitement of life. This, I call it this aliveness. You want to invigorate, which you do. And the journey you're on is so remarkable. You've got this aliveness in you and this activation. And that's where you want to focus on. And so many people are scared of that.
Mm.
Because it's out of their comfort zone, their nervous system freaks out, their whole people around them go, what the hell are you doing? And it's like, what? But actually, that's where the gold is.
Yeah. I mean, I'm saying all the time, I'm so growth mindset about everything. You know, I say to my bakers all the time, you know, you make a mistake or you think you failed, that's absolute treasure. That's absolute treasure because you soak up all the knowledge that you can from that and then you let it go. And that's what the past becomes. And you take your learning from it into your present and into your future. I mean, I'm a very forward thinking. I'm always thinking, I've got a real diary in my head of the months ahead and the weeks and what I'm doing when,
Yeah.
you know, things that have happened last week, completely gone, not there at all. And, you know, and things that I remember doing, particularly things that I failed at, because it's, I don't know, it's our brain's way of, it will always highlight the negative. You know, it will, and there's reasons for that, isn't there? But it will always highlight the negative. But if you can say, right, what have I learned from that? What's it taught me? And then once you've got all that, it's easier to let whatever that is go, isn't it? Because you've taken what you need from it.
And I always talk with people about closure about things because sometimes these things keep showing. I'm sure your listeners will have had a pattern. I know I have. I know my clients have. And if anybody says they haven't, I don't quite believe it because everybody has.
Yeah.
A pattern where something happened and they haven't quite closed off that experience, so it's still energetically charged within them. So then they're like, "Oh, it's happened again. See, it's
Yeah.
happened again," and they're in that pattern. That's because you haven't made peace with it, and you haven't forgiven yourself, or you haven't taken, like exactly like Annie says, the lessons and the learnings and all of the good growth from that, and then made sure you're not going to do it again. Because
Yeah.
and that's an acceptance piece, and that's an allowance piece for people because it's very easy. And this is another deep moment again. And it's very easy for people to stay in the struggle.
Mm.
It's harder for people to allow themselves to go, hey, do you know what? I've learned this and I'm not doing it again. Because you've got to be brave. You've got to be courageous. Courage never sits well with people. It's not a nice feeling for people. So you've got to couple courage with commitments. You've got to be really committed, devoted to what it is that you're going to do. And then you'll fly.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Easy, isn't it, Annie? Easy.
Yeah, so just as simple as that, isn't it? But as I said before, it is something you can learn to do. You know, I'm so ingrained into when things go wrong, going, oh, what can I learn from that? That I rarely get cross and angry and stressed when I'm doing something. You know, I've learned how to make sugar flowers, as you know, and you know, in the early days, oh my God, I hate that. I'm going to throw it out the window. But you know, recently it's, oh, that's not quite worked. What have I done wrong there? What have I got to, you know, what have I got to do? What's not quite working? And it's the rational brain, isn't it,
Yeah.
that overtakes and goes, hang on then, right, let's have a look at this. Because, you know, because I mean, we've talked about this before, haven't we? And you put me right because I said that the brain's function is just to keep you safe. But you corrected me and you said Actually, it's twofold, isn't it? You explain.
Brain's function is too. I corrected you with love.
Yes, of course. No, I took it with love.
The brain always likes to keep you safe, but it always wants to keep you happy. So those two things are really, really important. And your body kicks in when you're in fear, so that you stop yourself doing something, because fear kicks in and you might feel like you're going to faint or dodgy gut or palms sweating or all the sort of fear things. When you can retrain your brain that actually it's excitement that's going on and it's going to bring you happiness, and you can smile and you can laugh your way through things, you get to where you're going a lot easier and a lot quicker, because your mind relaxes, then your body relaxes, and then you're like, hey, let's go.
Yeah. It's that feeling, isn't it? I mean, I'm tall anyway, but that feeling of walking tall, and it's really true, isn't it? That epic feeling, oh, I can conquer the world because it's, everything's right. It's a fabulous feeling, that, isn't it?
I think this is really important, actually, Annie, as you talk about that, because so many people don't allow themselves to sort of stand in their fullest potential. In how they carry themselves, like how they carry themselves, how they navigate the world energetically in their body, but also actually in the fullest expression of themselves, and being able to allow all of the parts of themselves to come to the party, rather than, oh, do you know what, I'm meant to be like this today, or I'm meant to be like this today. I mean, you and I, we just like bring out all of the fun, all of the openness. There's no conversation we won't have. We will go on all of them. And I think it takes a certain element of growth to be able to be at that space. And I think one of my messages, and that we both share, I think, is for people to have permission to allow themselves to love all the parts of themselves and bring them all out, because then you get the real joy, you get the real happiness, you get the real contentment, and you really start to tune into what gives you that fulfillment and what gives you that real joy. And if you could, choose how you'd really love to live a life that's really fulfilled, you get your answers.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was thinking the other day about how, again, if this is a British thing, it probably is, a cultural thing. So many people apologize all the time. Oh, I'm sorry for that. I'm sorry for this. I'm sorry for that. And I've got myself right out the habit of doing that. I don't apologize. Obviously, if I do make a mistake or I do something that needs an apology, of course I will make it. But I'm not, oh, sorry, sorry, I've done. No, no, no. You want me, have me as I am. That's who I am. I'm not going to apologize for that.
And that, I think that's a big bit, isn't it? It's about whether people notice it as a pattern, like you've navigated for yourself, the I'm sorry, or whether people realize that they're just like dimming their light or playing small, whether they know themselves. They're like, so one of the patterns that I've worked through personally has been about, I don't want to outshine others. I've got multiple gifts in multiple ways, but actually I don't ever want to look like I'm too big for my boots. So I had to navigate that story and go, do you know what? I nearly swore then, and I don't even swear. I'm very talented at what I do, and I'm going to hold myself to that level of expectation of myself, really. And that's when you do that, you have conversations with people like you and I have, where you can go all into depths of lots of different things on really big topics and deep topics, and you're able to hold yourself in that capacity. And I think it's a real growth in that space.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Oh my goodness me, look at the time. Charlotte, we could talk for hours, couldn't we?
We always can. We need to meet up again.
We will. Now, I don't know if I'm springing this on you, but you've probably answered it already. But I always ask my guests whether they have a message of hope for my listeners. You've sort of answered it already, but tell us what your message of hope is.
Yeah, of course I will. I mean, you have sprung it on me, but I'm going to roll with it, because that's part of my message. But part of my message for today, for people listening about hope, is to just take a few moments to just sit down with a drink and close your eyes and just really tune into what parts of your life are really great and that you're super grateful for and you're appreciative, but also what parts of your life where you're like, do you know what? There are just a few changes that would make that so much more easier, lighter, more fulfilling and less draining. And I'll be able to cultivate more hope once I can release something. So my messages about what's one thing you could stop doing, like the I'm stopping saying I'm sorry piece, and what's one thing that you know that you could anchor in that's going to bring you more hope. For example, do you know that actually taking some action on something is going to make you feel more hopeful? Do you know that actually doing something that's massively for fun and for happiness and for joy is going to make you feel more hopeful? Or do you know something like Annie and I love doing, we've touched on it a lot in this conversation, connection with people who you can have those conversations with? Can you reach out to somebody today that you know is going to lift you up? You're going to lift them up. It's going to be a mutual exchange of just awesomeness. And one of those things will lift you from where you are, and then see the next piece, which is what I will always say to people, is how can you try to do that every single day?
Fabulous. Just fabulous. Oh, it's been so fabulous talking to you. Now, if anyone's interested in finding out more, where can they find you, Charlotte?
So my website is called idaretoleap.com. There's lots of bits and pieces on there. There's free audios if people want to expand their mind. And mainly I'm on Instagram. I am Charlotte Carter, because I've just claimed it now. I've just gone with my full name. I am Charlotte Carter. Follow me on there. Reach out on there if you've got any questions about anything that I spoke to. I'll happily guide you as to whatever's coming up for you.
Fantastic. I will put all those in the show notes so that they can be found really easily. Charlotte Carter, thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you.
You are so welcome. Thank you so much for having me. As always, it has been an absolute a blast and a treasure, I was going to say. Really make up a word then.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you, Charlotte.
Thank you for listening to the Chronicles of Hope podcast with me, Annie Bennett. I hope you found inspiration, comfort, or perhaps even a newfound perspective around the meaning of hope. To find out more about the aims of the Chronicles of Hope organisation, please visit www.thechroniclesofhope.org, where you will find links to our social media accounts and where you will be able to make a much needed and appreciated donation. Thank you.